Well, after decades of working, you want to maximize your retirement. So, how do you give it that boost? Back with us today, Laurel and Taylor Steward, the husband and wife duo. They're part of the team at Mattson Financial, a full-service financial and retirement firm in the Grand Rapids area. They're also popular radio show hosts. Welcome back to the show, guys.
Good morning. Thanks for having us.
Yes, good morning.
Absolutely. Taylor, Laurel, what do retirees need to know about when it comes to IRAs at this stage of life?
So it kind of starts with the basics, whether it's an IRA or a 401k, 403b, these are all types of qualified retirement accounts, right? So you put $1 in that, and that dollar comes off of your income at the end of the year. So it's a great savings tool for those that are working because, we're saving some taxes on, during those working years, allowing us to put that money away and let it grow for retirement. But on the back end, when we start taking money out, you're taxed at your ordinary income tax rate on every dollar that comes out. So it's one thing that we want to start looking at, maybe restructuring some assets into different tax qualification buckets. That way, in retirement, we have that diversification not only of your assets and your investments, but the diversification of the tax qualifications of those monies coming out of your accounts for income.
And when it comes to those maybe say on the verge of retiring, how much should they consider contributing to that IRA?
Yeah, and this is something where it comes down to having a conversation with a tax professional or your CPA as well as your advisor to make sure that's all working together. Because depending on your time horizon, how much time you have left until you retire, you should still be contributing, putting that money away into a 401k plan, your 403b or things like that, as long as your employer is matching it, right? Because that's free money that you definitely want to take advantage of, but wanting to make sure that you are also, having your CPA involved so they know what's going on with your tax situation as well.
Yeah, there's that word again, tax, tax, tax. Let's talk about the...
I know, can't get away from it.
But there are tax advantages, right, to an IRA. What are those?
Yeah, so again, in your working years, you put that money into that IRA or pre-tax account, and you're saving that money tax-wise throughout your working years. So that's a big advantage if you're maybe a higher income earner, or just, again, we want to contribute, and that's maybe the only place right now that we really can do it. You got a good line of sight, you know exactly how much is going in, you know exactly how much your employer is matching, and then there's that fine balance. We want to make sure that we're maxing out that employer's contribution, but maybe when we're getting closer to retirement, then we start looking at, okay, we want to get that max contribution from the employer, but maybe we start looking at contributing to a Roth IRA or Roth 401k to start diversifying those assets for another tax benefit later on down the road.
Can you really quickly break down the difference between those two? We hear them all the time, the Roth versus the typical IRA.
Yeah, so the IRA, you're going to put money in, and that dollar is going to come off your income for tax purposes at the end of the year. It's going to continue to grow tax deferred, meaning you're not paying taxes on any of that growth while you're working and not withdrawing funds. When you take money out of that IRA or 401k, that's going to be taxed at your ordinary income tax rate at that point, which in retirement maybe, hopefully, is lower than where you're at working. Now, the Roth IRA, you're going to pay tax on that. You're going to contribute that to a Roth IRA. It's not going to be a tax deductible situation, but now every dollar you earn in growth on that money is not taxed. It's tax-free for the rest of your life. So think about when you're in retirement and we've got pensions and Social Security, maybe we need to supplement that with our investment income, but we don't want to take too much out of the IRA so we don't bump ourselves up a tax bracket. Now you've got that Roth IRA that you can start pulling funds from that's not going to affect the taxability of your Social Security or even insurance. There are some insurance plans out there that have some subsidies, and we have to be careful about what our annual earned income is. So the Roth IRA is a great bucket to do that with.
Taylor, thanks so much for clearing that up. Solid tax strategy.
Yeah.
Seems like a pretty important thing for retirement, but what kind of steps can people take to have an income plan in retirement? I mean, that paycheck's not coming in anymore, so how do we get there?
And that's just it, is you want to make sure now you're creating a paycheck, something that you can solidly rely on and having that confidence. And it goes back to that first stage when you're speaking with your advisor as to what do you want to do in retirement? What do you want these dollars to do for you? Because without that conversation, it's their plan and not yours. So we talk about, those dreams, goals, and desires of what you want to do. And then we match that up with what you've done so far, to prepare for retirement, looking at your investments and align those. And then if there's anywhere, when it comes to Social Security and pension as well, if there's a gap, then we're going to look to how we can fill that to make sure you have that guaranteed income coming in, like you mentioned, that paycheck like you did while you were working.
And it's important to sit down and maybe talk with a fiduciary advisor. Maybe your current stock advisor has been doing great. You've had great returns. He's done really well in that avenue, but maybe he's not so well versed in taxes and Social Security. So it's really important when we're talking about an income plan, we're bringing all of those pieces of the puzzle together. And not that your current advisor is a bad person, but if he doesn't deal in that area, we want to bring in the experts. And again, it's very important to sit down with a fiduciary advisor. That way that they're doing what's in your best interest.
Absolutely.
And maximizing that income for your income plan.
And of course, there's always risk. You said the market. So, there's risk, there's reward. How much do you know to leverage? What's the number?
Yeah, I think that comes down to also your comfort zone. We talk about this a lot of times with our clients, especially last year, when people were thinking, hey, the market's on the up and up, we're feeling really great. Well, then, COVID hit and so did the markets, and people said, well, my skin isn't as thick as it once was. So, it's more than just picking out a number of a scale of 1 to 10. I've heard that from clients before that, hey, my previous advisor said, pick a number where I feel comfortable. Well, we dive in a little deeper as to getting to know you and where your comfort zone lies. And once again, focusing on what is your plan. Taylor talked about a lot of our different buckets that we look at. Your IRA dollars and your Roth IRA dollars should be doing two completely different things, two different portfolios and growth plans on there. So it just goes to show as conversations, looking at taxes and all those different buckets.
You know what I'd really like? I'd like for you to take care of that for me. So let's call a number. It can be confusing.
Absolutely.
It can be confusing for a lot of people. A lot of numbers flying around there. So let's give out the big number, your telephone number and the special that you have for our viewers.
Yes, so our number is 616-514-3831. And for the first 5 callers this morning, if you save $250,000 or more for retirement, great time, to sit down with one of our fiduciary advisors to get a second opinion or a checkup on your retirement plan.
Thank you, Laurel. Thank you, Taylor, for the time this morning. Hey, for you at home, if you'd like to learn more about giving your retirement the boost it needs, Mattson Financial has that great offer. Right now, the first 5 callers that have saved $250,000 or more that are retired or nearing retirement, they're offering a complimentary full-blown retirement plan just for you. This will allow them to sit down with you personally and provide you with a roadmap analyzing where you are right now and discussing best steps to really get ready for a successful retirement. It's a game plan to get you where you need to be. The number to call, 616-514-3831. Again, 616-514-3831.